Welcome in to the DNVR Avalanche Podcast and the new off-season start time. We're here. We got AJ, we got J Mike, we got Rudo coming to you live on a Tuesday in the end of May. And it is official. Anyone under contract for the Colorado Avalanche is no longer playing hockey. The World Championships ended with the U.S. winning the gold there. The Colorado Eagles season came to an end, and they fit right in under the Avalanche banner. They can't win a winner-take-all game. They get blown out 5-0. They also lost multiple overtimes in that series. I'm in a weird spot with the Eagles, guys, so maybe you can make me feel better, feel worse about it. There just wasn't a ton for me to attach to with the Colorado Eagles this year because of how thin the Avalanche prospect pool is. Is there still valuable things you guys can take from an AHL playoff run? Am I just being a doomer here?
Yeah, there's valuable stuff. I mean, you get a look at some of these guys, right? Like, unfortunately, the reality we know is there aren't a lot of like real prospects down there that we're getting a look at. But you think that this wasn't valuable for Ivan or Nikita Prischapov? Like, they need experience for those guys, and that's playoffs, that's big games, that's all meaningful experience for those cats. Is it meaningful for TJ Tynan and Jason Megna and Matt Phillip? Like, no. It's not. It does not matter, you know. And unfortunately, like that Eagles roster, it's really good, but it's very heavy on the veterans. There's a lot of like AHL lifer types on that roster. That's why it was good. Very rarely do you see an AHL team go deep in the Calder Cup playoffs with it just being full of prospects.
True.
Like it's not a common thing. But having a couple of prospects get a taste of the action, that's great. And you know, I would like to have seen him go deeper, but I was telling before we went live that it was the Texas Stars in the next round saves us from having a potential postseason sweep by that organization, which would have made me want to light myself on fire, and it would have had J Mike fighting more people on Twitter. So you know, yes, it's valuable, it's meaningful. Is it going to be career altering? No, but any experience is good experience and is an opportunity for growth, and you know, pushes the rock a little further up the hill for those guys.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm kind of with AJ in the sense of if you're looking at it through the lens of should I be watching these games because it's going to be 6-7, you know, future stars in the NHL? Not really, but it's a relatively competitive product and the local community supports it. So I think like from that standpoint, going to the games is a whole lot of fun. But my thing is just the lack of general accessibility and visibility. I think it makes it tough to follow. And I don't know. I just like, I understand what they're doing, trying to increase some revenue and probably a part of the sport that doesn't exactly rake it in. But I think if the NHL could do anything to make it just a little bit more relevant and a little bit more a part of the like general day-to-day hockey conversation amongst NHL fans, I think you've got to make it more accessible because right now it's tough to follow. That's my main thing.
Yeah, unless you're a total dweeb like me that pays for Flow Hockey every year. It's hard to watch the AHL, man.
I think this is just a hockey problem in general, is the accessibility of it. You know, yeah, getting on ESPN and TNT makes it easier, but on any given night, you're going, well, which one am I watching? I don't know which one I need. Like, you can't pay for a service anymore and watch that product. You're now jumping around all over the place. The AHL has the same problem. Oh, ESPN, TNT, nope, doesn't matter. You're stuck getting flow hockey.
Yeah.
No disrespect, obviously, but it's just one more thing that you need to do in order to try to try to get into these games and into these teams.
And, generally speaking, the types of people that are diehard hockey fans like I am, it's magnified times 100 because you have Flow Hockey for the AHL. And Flow Hockey has actually done a decent job this year. They have ECHL, they have USHL, they have a good amount of stuff. But then there's CHL TV for all the Canadian juniors. There's numerous other packages that if you're looking for not just junior leagues, but other professional leagues, it's really, really hard to find European leagues and things like that. Actually, Flow Hockey has like one or two of those too. So credit to them. They did a decent job of it, but all of these services cost hundreds of dollars. It's not like, it's $10 a month for this. It's like, no, you're paying a lot of money to be able to watch this hockey that is, don't get me wrong, it's good hockey. I love it, but it's not NHL caliber. It's not the absolute tip-top peak that we get to watch every night on our TVs. So I do think
it's pretty daunting, or like it's pretty jarring, the difference in pace and like the quality of passing. And it's a fun time. And that Eagles series in particular, it got pretty chippy. Like there were parts of it where it wasn't even really like hockey anymore, and guys were just kind of headhunting each other, which was fun to see. But like, it is definitely like going from the Avs Star series to that. It's one of those where it's like, I don't know if I would want to pay a couple $100 to follow this team.
Yeah, I totally understand that. Point of
if
view.
you're watching the Eagles because you really like the Eagles and you're from Northern Colorado and it's like that's what you're getting into, you don't care, right? But if you're watching this through a lens of like Avalanche prospects, I care because they're part of the Avalanche organization, not worth. It can get tough to watch. And yes, that series ended up getting a little old school AHL by the end of it, where you're like, all right, guys, calm down. Like, and it's not worth it when, you're looking at it going, your fourth leading scorers are John Ludwig and Callie Rosen. You're not looking at like you want that to be Oscar Olausson, Jean-Luc Foudy. Like those are the guys that you want to be at the forefront of it, where you're like, these guys are going to push for jobs for the Avs next year. And you're looking at those guys going, yeah, okay, good. Yeah. Just try to get to the second week of training camp, guys. Like get to the second week of the preseason before getting cut, let alone making a roster. Like if you're trying to view this through an Avs prospect lens, the guy that you're maybe most excited about is Wyatt Amott.
I disagree, but for skaters, yeah, sure.
Is Trent Minor?
It's Minor by a mile.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I forget about him just because their NHL team is now, those two guys are locked in, and then Ilya Nabokov is like the one in the organization. Like he's arguably the top prospect in the organization now, and he looks really good. And
it's a weird situation because Minor has essentially been crowded out of any real NHL opportunity in this organization, but he just posted a .925 save percentage across 9 playoff games. Like the dude is probably the only reason they made it to Game 5 against Abbotsford.
He was really
not a lot of help in front of him.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're looking for something to be excited about prospects wise, Minor is probably the best one. Obviously there's a little bit of box score scouting going on here. If you watch the games, there's a lot of other things going on. Someone like an Ivan had 2 points in 9 games, but also, what role are you asking a guy to play? Not necessarily a scorer type for you if you're looking at him at an NHL caliber type of player.
Yeah.
But it's pretty thin, man. For actual legitimate prospects, you mentioned Amott 3 points in 9 games. Olausson had 3 points in 7 games, but 0 goals in the playoffs. Foudy just 1 point in 6 playoff games. Even someone like Taylor McCarr only managed to get himself into 1 playoff game this season. So there's just not a lot to take from the NHL team.
It also hurts Jacob McDonald, 0 goals after the year that he had. He scored no goals in the postseason. We are like, come on. We want the chaos monster to chaos a little harder come postseason time.
True. I don't know. We can move on because I just don't know that there's a ton else to say. I do.
It sucks.
The one thing I will say is it does feel like a missed opportunity because we are in the conference finals of the NHL playoffs. That means there's one hockey game a day. Finding a way to get that AHL playoff hockey out there a little bit better, to add some more hockey just available to people in North America. It feels like they could do a better job of that. In our Discord, we had people talking up the Memorial Cup every other day because it's other hockey that you can watch that means something this time of year. And the AHL basically doesn't get talked about at all in our Discord because it's just not available out there.
I mean, if UNC Greeley had a hockey team, it would be easier to probably watch their games than it is as a casual, like it'd be like ESPN Plus or something like that. Just the affordability of it all is tough.
Yeah, I don't know that I have the solution for it, but it just feels like a missed opportunity. We can transition a little bit to the NHL playoffs, which
Yay.
Two weird series. I guess the Eastern Conference series isn't that weird. It's very similar to last year's, but Carolina did it. They won a game. They broke the curse. They're not going to win the series, but they're alive. They did a thing.
Nobody beats them 15 times in a row.
Yeah.
That win gets Rod Brindamore 3 more years at the helm of Carolina or something. I don't know.
I don't know. With Carolina, I just want to talk about this. One, because I like the Hurricanes a lot. I have for a few years now, but I just don't know what to do. But everybody dings them with they're boring, but they're effective. They're in the second round every year. They win playoff series. They're hard out. Like, I say they're hard out, and they've mostly gotten destroyed in this series, but that hasn't been the case in previous years. They've been hard outs. And I don't know what to do. Like, if you're running that organization, they kind of ran out of time with the Rantanen deal, adding them 2 first-round picks and Stankoven, who looks great, who looks like a Hurricane through and through, and that he's going to dominate some shifts. He's going to put some pucks on net, and he's not going to score very much. Looks really good, right? And now they've got the ammo this summer to go and make another big move. But it not only went so poorly with Rantanen, but the way that he talked about it and the way that he was dismissive of it and had no interest in re-signing there. Like, I am curious, like, what's their pivot here? How do they get better? Because this isn't a good free agent market. So now that they have a little bit of money to spend, are they going to spend it? Where do they spend it? Are they going to go hard in the trade market? What are they going to trade for? Like that. It's not hard to look at a guy like JJ Peterka and go, that guy would be a really good Hurricane. But is that more of what they need? I just don't know how to get them over the hump. It seems, I just kind of feel bad, honestly, because I don't know what more to do. They build a really good competitive team every single year, and it doesn't seem like players really love being there.
Yep.
And I guess I just don't know what the pivot here is. Like, how do you it's just like a very regular, it's very Sisyphus like, right? Like and they just don't make progress here. It doesn't feel like they're any closer. They try different things. They've made big trades. Last year Gensel, this year Rantanen, and then the pivot away from Rantanen. But are they any closer to winning a Stanley Cup? It looks like they're a mile away from the Panthers right now.
Yeah, the comparison to the Panthers is tough. I do want to expand on this conversation. There's a couple things I want to get into, but we have to pay a few bills before we do that. So let's make sure we're jumping in, paying our bills with Empire Today. I'll tell you what, I do think Carolina has done a good job of building a good floor. They built their floors real high, all right? Empire Today will get you the floors you need when you head over to empiretoday.com/DNVR. You can get $350 off your new floors, however you want to do it, whether that's staying at home and going online to use their online tools. You can measure out your room. You can see what the flooring looks like in that space. You can get a free in-home estimate. They'll send someone out. They'll bring swatches of flooring so you can see what it looks like with your furniture in your area. Or, of course, you can always go shopping at Empire Today, whatever it might be. They only carry the best products over at Empire Today, so you can miss all the junk. Of course, they're professionals. They're great at what they do. If you haven't had the chance to check them out, you can schedule that free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. And DNVR listeners can get up to $350 off when using promo code DNVR. Yes, you heard that right. A $350 discount with code DNVR. Of course, restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/DNVR for full details. And of course, you can always call 1-800-588-2300 Empire. Once you've got your floors all sorted out, make sure you're also getting your smells all sorted out. That's where Mando comes in. Mando is a men's deodorant brand that is hyper-focused on keeping every aspect of a man's body smelling fresh and clean. Yes, every aspect. That includes balls, butt cracks, grundles, and more. You name it, Mando will make sure you're all feeling squeaky clean. Go check them out. They have a ton of great scents, including things like Clover, Woods, Mount Fuji, Bourbon Leather, and Pro Sport. Go jump in with them. Their new starter pack. That's not the right word, but you can get 50% off when you talk about their starter pack. You can go over to Mando today. Make sure you're using that DNVR code. The starter pack comes with both a cream and tube deodorant and 2 items of your choice. So jump in with them. Their starter pack is perfect for new customers. They got that deodorant I already mentioned, but you can get that $5 off the starter pack and free shipping. I lied earlier. It's only 40% off because it's just cheap. It's great product for a great price. Go to shopmando.com. Use the DNVR code. That's SHOPMANDO.com today. Of course, use that DNVR code to let them know we sent you over there. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. Carolina Hurricanes. No one can deny that they're a good team. You don't go to the conference final 3 years running or 3 times in 4 years because you're a bad team. But pulled it up. You know how many times a Carolina Hurricane has hit 100 points in a season?
Was the last one Eric Stahl?
It's the only one.
Even in the explosion of scorings, no Sebastian Aho, no Svechnikov. I mean, Svechnikov's taking steps back. That's painful.
They don't even have a guy besides that Eric Stahl season to hit 90 points in a season. Aho had 89, one short. And I don't know how you solve this problem if you're Carolina, because you went, like, inarguably, offensive production-wise, Mikko Rantanen is the best offensive producer that has ever been on that team.
Yeah.
Like, and he didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
So how do you solve that? I don't know.
Yeah, he was the best offensive producer that's ever been on that team, but he wasn't when he was there. He was awful.
He was not even good. It feels like that's what they need, right? We've talked about it for years. They need the guy. They tried to go out and get the guy, and if you want to have a conversation about Mikko disappearing, is he really the guy? Fair enough. But they try and go out and get one, and it doesn't work, and they get rid of him within 2 months. Meanwhile, you watch Florida be able to recruit free agents and trade targets easily for years in both Tampa and Sunrise. I don't know how Carolina gets over that hump, like you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, by my count, Florida has 9 guys who have 10 points or more in their postseason run right now, and Carolina has 3. And it's not like that used to be like the Avs split, except those 3 were all in the top 6 in the league in scoring, and that's not happening in like their only point per game guy right now is Seth Jarvis, who easily one of the league's most underrated players. But again,
He's been so good.
he is as noteworthy for his two-way play as he is anything offensively, which is the same of Sebastian Aho. And they just need like a monster, like a guy that's like a Patrick Laine type, where you're like, this guy doesn't care at all about playing defense, right? He just lives to score goals.
Give us
And
40 goals, please. Yeah.
But you look at what's happened with Andrei Svechnikov. I keep saying what they've done to him. I think it's
just a player that he is. Yeah.
It's kind of a two-way street. You can't just be like, oh well. But I do think this is where Rod Brind'Amour has coached out some of the creativity, some of the high-end offensive stuff because of how they play, because of the insistence. Oh, you've got to get back. Like they were getting rocked the other day in Game 3. In the third period of that game, everything was falling apart, and he's yelling at their forwards, "Oh, you need to get back." And it's like, they need to attack.
Big dog, yeah.
Like, you need to attack. Like, yeah, you're going to make some mistakes, but you have to take chances. And he's yelling at his guys to get back and play defense. And it's like, what? Like, what does it matter if you give up the 5th goal? You can't get a second one. You know, like it's just such a disaster that I think it gets coached out of them a lot. And that's why you see guys like Jackson Blake, Sebastian Aho, Seth Jarvis, like these guys, like these really good two-way players. Jordan Staal can't score, but he's like the model Hurricane because he takes care of business in the defensive zone and he gets rewarded with a lot of minutes. Jordan Staal plays 17 minutes a night for those guys. And he's never been good offensively. Like he's always been, because he's so good defensively, such a good face-off guy. He's so good shorthanded. He plays constantly for them. And it's like, that guy should be more of a matchup, you know, like an eraser for you. And instead, he gets used like he's going to generate something. But I also don't know, like Rod Brind'Amour has gotten his team out of the first round every single season. How do you move on from that guy? Where's an upgrade? And that's it's the same conversation we have about Jared Bednar in Colorado, right? If you fire this guy who's proven himself to be a really good head coach in the NHL, how do you get better? Who's out there that is going to actually take the reins of that roster and move it forward? And that's always the fear, is that you don't. You make that big bold decision, you make that culture change, you upend this thing, you throw a lightning bolt into your room, but all it does is destroy the room.
I don't know what you do if your process is objectively correct, but the results aren't there. Like, I think when you look at the moves they've made these last couple of years, it makes sense. They've gone out and they've tried to add goal scoring, and it hasn't panned out for whatever reason. I mean, in the Toyota chat, there's a lot of great stuff being brought up about, you know, could it be team culture? Is it a facilities issue? You know, people mentioned that Carolina has one of the worst arenas. As far as like a city goes, I love Raleigh. I mean, North Carolina is gorgeous. I'd way rather live in North Carolina than Florida, just personally, if it came down to those two. But
Same.
I don't know. Like, I don't really know what you're supposed to do, because they remind me so much of like a Midwest NBA franchise where it's, man, if we don't hit in the lottery and get somebody that we can draft and develop, we don't have a chance, because guys just aren't going to sign in Indianapolis, and Denver, you know, was viewed as that way for a long time, and Minnesota and some of these other spots. Like, I don't know what you do when you're objectively competitive, and if you give yourself enough chances at the plate, like theoretically you should hit it. You know, if your process is correct, eventually you should hit on one of these. But I don't know, maybe they're just one of those teams who like Rudo kind of opened with the transition, you know, with the floor, like they're a decently high floor team, but what is their ceiling? And while their style of play maybe is good enough to always have you in the mix, it might just be a little too bland when you're going up against some of these teams like Florida, or even if they were to make it through Florida, like how are they going to score with a team like Edmonton or even Dallas for that matter? I don't know. I just, you have to play so perfectly 100% of the time to win that way.
Look, this is something out of their control. I don't want to knock it too much on their front, but when you look at the teams they go through to make the conference finals every year, a lot of the time their path is pretty easy. And like, credit where credit's due, they get through these teams. They do the job. But it feels like every time they come up against a real contender in a playoff year, all of a sudden their system stops working the way it's supposed to. Yeah, they can get through a New Jersey who's missing Jack Hughes and is a team that has underperformed in the playoffs pretty much on repeat.
They were real banged up.
They can get through a New York Islanders team that hired Patrick Waugh 3 weeks ago. A lot of those first round matchups you're looking at and you're like, oh, well, yeah, okay, that's a pretty easy one to get through. But then you play the Rangers in the second round or something and it gets real hard. You get to the conference finals and you play a team from Florida that actually is experienced and very good, and the game plan seems to fall apart.
Yeah. Also though, like, oh, they're losing to bad team or they're losing to good teams. Okay. Like, somebody's going to lose
You're
in
not
the conference
wrong.
finals. The problem is that they're getting swept. Like, they're getting rocked. Like, they've got to find ways to pick up some of these games and actually, you know, if we were talking about like some 4-3, 4-2s here, I would feel differently, where it's just like, look, dude, they're losing close series. You know, like, you look at the Avs in the series that they've lost. They've lost, what, 2 Game 7s and a Game 6 in the last 3 seasons. Like, they're not getting rocked, but
Yeah.
the getting swept multiple times is like, oh, like, specifically in the conference final here. Like, I think that's where they get there, but they feel every year they feel so far away. It's not helping that their goaltending is unreliable. Like, Freddie Anderson was unreal, and then he gets to the first 2 games of the conference final, he's horrible. Like,
would you say they benefited from the NHL playoff format? Like, we've mentioned so many times how much the Avs have kind of gotten the short end of the stick with these brutal first round draws, and I think that was never more apparent than this year. But maybe you point to a team like Florida and you could point to this being a flaw in the system of, well, that's part of the issue, right? Like, they're a good team, they're a playoff team, but part of the reason they keep getting to the finals and then getting their shit rocked is we have a system that kind of gives them that path.
Strangely enough, though, like, the answer to your question is yes. It's just, it has benefited them, but it's not like, it's really, I think, just that the East has not been very good.
I wouldn't even go so far as to say the Metro specifically.
Exactly. Like, you look at their last 2 seasons, getting a 94-point Islanders team in round 1, and then this year you get a 91-point Devils team who is, like, missing their best player.
The
they had a slew of injuries. Like,
yeah,
that's luck of the draw, right? Like, they had fortune on their side there, and even 3 years ago they get a 93-point Islanders. Like, yeah, they've benefited from the fact that the East just has not been very deep. It has not been very good. Like, yeah, that's helped. You know, when you win your division, though, that's also the benefit of it. But they've been getting second place, third place in their division, like, and it's still working out for them. And must be nice, I guess, you know, because we're looking at it like, great, Dallas, awesome. You know, the Central Division is so good. Over and over and over, the Central Division is good. That, yeah, it's it would be nice if the Avalanche could get a little bit of that, but it's fine. You know, it's fine. That's just, you're gonna have to beat good teams to win a Stanley Cup. It's not gonna be easy. You know, you think Colorado's 22 Cup path was easy. Round 1 was easy. The benefit of winning the West, but after that, it was grind time. You know, those were all hard series. Even the sweep over Edmonton, those were
I mean, those
3
were
close
grinded out games. Like if you're just glancing at it, oh, they swept them. That's not even remotely true of what that series was in terms of the back and forth.
It was 3 close games, including the both games in Edmonton were come from behind wins. Like they worked, they worked hard. So those were that is an area where Carolina has gotten a little bit of fortune. But so what? The problem is that when they get to the good teams, and like this year they got to go through the fraudulent Caps team that I like. Hey, good for them. They've reset it a little bit. They're fun. Their head coach rocks. Like I think they're going to be a problem for years to come. They were very percentage driven this year, and it didn't last. Okay, the second round it's pretty common for those teams to flame out in round 2. So the Hurricanes are just not able to. Why can't they get past the actual good teams when it's time? I don't know.
It's tough because on the one hand, they're a team that says, hey, we've made 3 conference finals in the last 4 years. On the other hand, in the last 3 years, before last night, they couldn't say they were any closer than the Avs have been.
Right.
Their first conference final game win was last night in technically it's like 16, 17 years or something like that. But
Brindamore was a player
for their last one. Okay, we do got to pay a few bills here. There's one more thing I want to talk about with this series, though. We'll get to that in just a second here, as we are, of course, brought to you by the folks over at Coors Light. Make sure you choose chill, especially this time of year, although you're drinking your Coors Lights inside with the weather we've had. I tell you, it's been rainy and haily and all sorts of kind of messy weather out there. But that's, you stay inside, you kick back, you turn on some hockey or maybe some basketball. I mean, look, if I have to watch SGA trip over nothing again, I'm going to need a few Coors Lights. Okay. It's brutal. It's brutal in the NBA right now, but Coors Light helps me choose chill. So make sure you're getting yourself some. The mountains turn blue on the bottle or the can to let you know it's ice cold and ready to drink. It's available in pretty much every liquor store in the country. But if you don't want to go out in some poor weather, make sure you're heading over to CoorsLight.com/DNVR and you can get it delivered right to your front door thanks to Instacart. Makes life easy. You don't even have to get up off your couch to get your Coors Light. Go check them out if you haven't tried it. Of course, brewed right here in Colorado, so we love it, but available everywhere. Of course, jump in with them. Make the most of the times you want to choose chill and choose Coors Light. You can go again to CoorsLight.com/DNVR to get it delivered right to you. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. And once you've enjoyed a Coors Light, make sure you're also doing the important things in life, like taking care of your money. And that's where First Bank comes in. Whether on the road, at home, or somewhere in between, First Bank makes banking easy, convenient, and secure. Their mobile banking app allows you to check balances, pay friends, and manage your money anytime, anywhere. And here's the best part. Open a new First Bank checking account today, and you could earn $300. First Bank is all about helping you stay on track. Their tools make it simple to stay in control of your finances without the hassle. No matter where life takes you, First Bank gives you the freedom to bank how and when it works best for you. So if you're ready for better banking and a chance to earn a little extra, head to efirstbank.com/bonus. That's efirstbank.com/bonus to open your account. Bank how you want, when you want with First Bank. Of course, certain restrictions and requirements apply. Member FDIC. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. And here's the one thing that I wanted to make. This is maybe more a focus on Florida than Carolina. And this is kind of a conversation I've seen cropping up around the community, both on Twitter, on Reddit, even on our Discord channel. Look, I think we all agree that the NHL playoffs is the best playoffs on the planet. It's has that mystique for a reason. And part of that reason is an upturn in physicality, an upturn in the level of warrior that an NHL player becomes in a playoff series. But also, are we just cool with Florida just hitting teams' goalies in the head and like we're just living in this world where we're taking cheap shots and runs at people, or are they stepping over a line here?
Both. I mean, both. Like, you see Florida gets a 5-1 lead the other day, and they were like, let's start running, people. You know, Matthew Tkachuk just like chases Sebastian Aho around an entire shift. And it was just like, cool, man. Like, this is just who they are. They're crazy. They have loaded up on crazy guys. And it doesn't really matter the score, doesn't matter the situation. They're mad. They're out for blood. The puck drops, and they all see red. It's just a red mist mentality, and
yeah,
that's who they are, man. That's been their ethos. They go out and they just like lean into that attitude as much as they possibly can. Is to be crazy and also be good. And I mean, I say that, but like that roster's great. There's so
they're
much
a great
skill
team.
there.
They're a great team.
There's so much skill there, and they've invested heavily in how they built it. They built it with a clear plan, and they built around Sasha Barkov, who's not really crazy. He's fine. He's Sebastian Aho. They're the same guy, but they've built insanity around him, and it has worked wonders because in the playoffs you get away with that stuff. You don't get away with that as much in the beginning of the postseason, but later in the postseason, we know how it is. By the end of a series, if you're not, committing a like clear cut penalty or a delay a game or straight up like murdering somebody, then it's not a penalty anymore. And that's where Florida eats. They live on the edge and they force the officials to make decisions. And for some reason, later as series go on, the officiating crews are like, well, we want the players to decide. And somehow the increased level of cheating that goes on is not players deciding. Yeah, I don't understand it, but it is what it is. And they feast on that stuff. Like they feast on that physical nature. It's who they are. It's why they're such a problem. And it's why somebody's going to pay Sam Bennett an insane amount of money.
They're fun to watch, man. I get that there's a line, and I understand that some of the stuff they've done is probably like borderline, would be putting it lightly, on a couple of the hits, but I don't know. To me, it's kind of what the playoffs are all about. Like if that's all they were doing, if they didn't have the finesse and the goal scoring on top of it, I'd roll my eyes a little bit, but they kind of beat you at your own game and then just bully you the rest of the way. And to me, like I just respect it. And I understand there's some flaws with the officiating, and I think there's just some human nature that comes into it. Like they don't want it to be, the Sports Center clip, oh, look at this penalty call, and then 5 seconds later the game ends on everybody bitches about the call. But like I think it's exactly what at least brings the more casual fans in. I will say it's kind of a tough balance of like you probably would, as a league, would like to highlight the McDavids and the McKinnons of the world and have a little bit more space and create, a little bit more fast-paced offense. But I mean, that's not what wins championships. Without the physicality, you aren't going to make it through the playoffs. So to me, like it's maybe been a little bit borderline, but I don't know. I've been into it. I've been enjoying it.
I've come to accept a world where refereeing has its limitations. I can be mad about it all I want. I get mad about it plenty in season, but look, they're human beings. They can only be so good at their jobs. That's just the reality of life. Where I struggle is the Department of Player Safety. I'm like, suspend people for dumb stuff. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
I don't, and like, this is definitely me letting some of my own personal bias in here, but when the NHL Player Safety finds a repeat offender, they scrutinize those guys 10 times as hard as people that should be suspended, but for whatever reason get away with it. And I don't really understand why that gets magnified even worse in the playoffs. Yes, I understand they want to build up the physicality, and some of that is okay, but if a dude hits a dude in the head, it's a suspension. Like it just should be. But they're like, oh, well, if we suspend him for a playoff game, that counts like 2 regular season games. So instead, we'll just fine him instead of giving them. It's the dumbest thing in the world to me. And then you watch someone like a Kadri get an entire series worth of games for a hit that another guy gets none for. And it's like,
Yeah.
come on, man.
Yeah. Watching the way that it was with Kadri, where it was like, look, if this is the standard then you're setting, then fine. Like, that's fine. Like, what Kadri was doing, he did some unhinged, dangerous things when he was on teams good enough to be in the postseason. I get that. Like, that was fine, but then they did not turn around and hold other people to that same standard. I mean, you look at some of the stuff just from a Colorado standpoint. You look at some of the stuff that Dallas was able to get away with, cross checks to the head and stuff. And it's not like the Avs didn't do those things too. There's no clean team in the postseason. It doesn't exist. Avs fans hated PK Subban because he smashed McKinnon's head into the boards during their first round series when Nashville won that one. And it was like the Avs fans booed him for the rest of his career because of it. Like, that stuff happens. It's just how it goes. But it's wildly inconsistent, and my personal axe to grind, it gives Pete DeBoer a chance to go up there and whine about officiating when his team loses games. And it's so annoying because we've seen over the years how it works. He goes out there, he throws a huge fit. His entire post-game presser is about officiating. And then they come back out and Dallas gets a good whistle the next game. And you're like, God, dude. Like, come on, this gets rewarded. It's annoying. It's annoying, but it works for the Panthers. The thing is, they'll take some bad penalties. They'll take some dumb stuff. But if you don't kill the penalty, then you're going to lose the game. See every Avs postseason series loss over the last 3 years. You have to be able to kill penalties.
It's a great transition into the other series there with Pete DeBoer. Look, the Dallas Stars are 16 out of 16 at 5v5 scoring in the playoffs. So if I was Pete DeBoer, I might be begging for more power plays too, to be fair, right? I'm just saying. And like, Dallas may well end up winning this series against Edmonton. They could win the cup this year. I don't know. But certainly their 5-on-5 play statistically does not look like a team that should be in the conference finals.
Yep.
And I don't know what else to tell you on that front. They made it anyway. Credit to them, but oof.
They're a weird eye test team though, too, because like the other night, even I would say if you look at the final score, obviously you're going to be like, man, they must have looked awful. I thought it was like probably their best game of the series so far, and they got freaking slaughtered. So I don't know what to take away from it.
They're a weird team. Their production is weird. They've gotten healthy. And honestly, I don't know that Robo has done much of anything to really help them offensively. Heiskanen on defense just makes them a little bit better because, he's a defenseman and that right side was horrible, but
so bad.
I don't know. Are they struggling to score? Or is Stuart Skinner just a really inconsistent goalie that goes from shutout to giving up 4 on a nightly basis?
I mean, Dallas should be feasting on Stuart Skinner because Stuart Skinner can't move laterally, and the Stars are excellent at moving pucks across the crease. They
destroyed Colorado with it for sure.
Like,
yeah.
That's the thing that they do at a really high level, and they're not doing it. And Stuart Skinner's like that's what you do when you beat up Stuart Skinner. It's because you have forced him to move laterally and make those types of saves. I mean, I will. Plenty of credit has to go to Stuart Skinner though, because Dallas has not struggled to create high danger chances in that series. They had at 5v5, they had 11 in game 2 and they had 13 in game 3. Like, that's Stuart Skinner being awesome.
Yep.
A little bit of puck luck running out too, which was to be like, I mean, granted, the Colorado Dallas series was just full of some of the weirdest goals both ways that you've ever seen.
Yeah,
that's plenty of that. I'm not making it a Colorado Dallas thing, but I just mean like they're not getting some of those bounces and ricochets that they just consistently got in that first series. And I think that kind of speaks to some of their hot and colds. And I mean, they're getting the full Mikko Rantanen experience. I tweeted it the other night jokingly, and I'm not surprised that it ruffled some feathers the wrong way, but like, this is who he is. This is who he has always been. And nobody on this side of things is shocked. Like, I don't know. Like, at some point you were going to get this Mikko, right?
Well, and we saw it in the first round series against the Avs. Like Mikko Rantanen,
4 games,
yeah, he was soups quiet. But you look at how Rantanen has, where he is. He's got 21 points in the postseason, which on the surface you're like, damn. He's got
12 of
21
those come in
points.
3 games.
He has 17 points across 6 games. Like, he went absolutely nuclear, and those 6 games all came in a, like, he had points in 5 of those 6 games. It's really 17 points in 5 games because he had a scoreless game in that streak.
Yeah.
So it's really 5 games that he did those 17 points. Otherwise, he's got 4 points.
Yeah,
4 points in the other 11 games. Like,
the lack of consistency. It's hard, and eventually that's going to catch up to you, though, right? Like, especially when the parity is what it is across the board in the NHL. Like, it's going to be hard to be a sustained, successful team, like, when you're just constantly pulling out these weird wins. To their credit, they've had a bunch of them in recent years, but like, I think that's also why at some point they run out of gas, or they run out of magic, maybe is a better way to put it. Like, at some point that carriage turns back into a pumpkin, and that's maybe a little bit too dramatic, but you get what I mean? Like, it's fine and dandy when you pull out those games, but when you're winning games that you maybe shouldn't win, eventually I just think that's going to catch up to you.
Several of them. And I mean, you look at how important their power play has been. You get fewer power plays the deeper you get into the postseason, the deeper you get into series. You can't be as heavily reliant on your special teams. You need your 5v5 play to pick up. And one of the reasons why Pete DeBoer does not have a Stanley Cup win. Yeah, he owns Jared Bednar. He owns the Avalanche. Look, you can't really argue against that. This was the best chance the Avs have ever had to win a series. They outplayed Dallas by a mile at 5v5, and they lost the series. Like,
yep.
Hockey's hard. But one of the reasons that we see Pete DeBoer teams run out of gas is because they play that same kind of, they want to counterattack, they want to feast on teams' mistakes, they special teams and counterattacking at 5v5 is how they do it. They don't have that kind of consistency game to game where they just skate you to death. That's why when Colorado's at their best, they beat everybody, because they can skate you into the ground, and that's not something that Dallas is built to do. They're better built to do it than they were, but they have been so reliant on special teams in this postseason run. And we see it's really, really, really hard to win 4 postseason rounds leaning that much on your special teams. They got their ass kicked by Colorado at 5v5 in the series, and they destroyed the Avalanche on special teams. They got it back a lot more. They outplayed Winnipeg by a mile at 5v5. They were way, way, way better, which to me was, Winnipeg's been overrated all season.
Yeah.
Like, huge shock, right? But now they're having a harder time with Edmonton, who very similar to Colorado. And now the pendulum has swung the other way, where Stuart Skinner is doing what Jake Ottinger did to the Avs. And Jake Ottinger, really good in the first round, still pretty good in the second round, does not hold up in that third round. Has not been good the deeper that he has gotten into the postseason, and we're seeing it again right now. Expected goals at 5v5 through 3 games between Dallas and Edmonton are 7-6. Actual goals, 9-3.
Yep.
Jake Ottinger's getting rocked in this series. Stuart Skinner is outplaying Jake Ottinger by so much. And
it's really annoying,
right now,
man. Like, if we could have just gotten
annoying.
this Ottinger, like, that series is over in 5 or 6.
You just get the Ottinger that you got against Winnipeg, and it would have been fine.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda. Obviously, we could do this for
Yeah,
10 years.
Forever.
They didn't win. Point blank period. Tip
I-
your hat to the Stars. They found a way to
Yeah.
win it. But
I
There's a
struggle
what if for
hitting
Colorado.
any coulda, woulda, shoulda beyond. You go 13 minutes without giving up 3 goals, and you're probably playing in the second round.
Yeah.
score one of the times you start overtime with a power play.
Right. Arturi Lehkonen don't miss an open net challenge 2 years in a row.
Ignore all of that. Just protect a 2-0 lead for the last 14 minutes.
Yep. There's
15 minutes of regulation.
There's so many ways it could have gone another way, but we've been salty enough about this. I do want to transition. We have less time than I thought, so we probably won't get too much into the Avs on this. Salary cap situations around the NHL. Obviously, there's the rumor flying around that some NHL GM is willing to give Sam Bennett $10 million this offseason, which is insane, like crazy talk, right? I get it. He's having an amazing playoffs, the in the moment thing. He's also a guy who just had his first 50-point season.
Yeah.
And you're going to give that guy $10 million? That number is crazy to me. And the conversation I want to have here is this going to be the new normal? Like, the salary cap is going up. I think everyone around the league expects contract prices to go up. Is this just me having sticker shock, or is that a $10 million for a 50-point player just actually crazy?
Well, there's so much that goes into the Sam Bennett thing because there's the intangibles. I talked about how Florida has leaned into crazy. Well, Sam Bennett is at the forefront of crazy. He's like Captain Crazy down there. He's nuts, right? Like he brings the crazy every single night. Like that's who he is. And when it gets that's more valuable in the postseason than it is in a regular season. But also we can't ignore the fact that he has 70 points in 100 playoff games. Like his points per game, are you paying him because he's going to give you 60 points in the regular season, or are you paying him because he's going to push a point per game in the postseason? That's why you would be paying him. Is that enough to say he's a $10 million player?
No, dude. No.
But there's sticker shock. Yeah, there's sticker shock there. But I would give him $9 million. If I'm Colorado, I would give him $9 million. And it's overpaying him. It just is. It's overpaying him. But for what he brings and for what the Avs need, fine. Cut a third pairing defenseman. Cut a luxury, right? There's no Ross Colton. Now you need a Yoel Kiviranta on your third line. Like you make a cut somewhere, because then you're done with this 2C conversation for the rest of Bennett's, for the next 3 years, we'll say. We'll say for the next 3 years.
Are you?
Bennett. Yes.
No, I don't know that if you're paying him $9 million, and maybe the Avs feel like they're done with it, but if you pay him $9 million and he has a 50-point season, you don't think the conversation around the team is going to be the same way it was around Casey Middlestat, who was making less than 6 even. He was making 5.75.
Not if he performs in the postseason the way that he has the last couple of years, because you're paying him in part because of what he's going to do in the playoffs. And you look at his last 3 postseasons, okay? 15 points in 20 games, 14 points in 19 games. Right now he's at 14 points in 16 games. His play elevates. He scores goals in the postseason. He brings the intangibles. He's a center. He does the things that you want. Yeah, he's bad at faceoffs. That's not going to help. But he does all these other things that the Avalanche specifically will need, and you just if it becomes okay, we're going to overpay. We're going to give him $10 million to come be our second line center. At least money is an asset that you could figure out. What other assets are you going to start moving to try and get? Are you really going to go in with Charlie Coyle as your 2C next year? Because then we're spending all year talking about Charlie Coyle, 35-point second line center. And then looking at the deadline, you don't have Cal Ritchie anymore. You've traded 2 straight years of first-round picks. Are you going to make it 3, 4, 5? Which I'm fine with. They suck at drafting.
They
So
can trade their 27 picks for sure.
Exactly. Like, just trade them. You suck at drafting. You can't develop. Those picks are more valuable before they're made. That's the argument that you want to make? Fine. I'm good with this. I'm comfortable here in this space. It sucks as a guy who likes prospects and likes the Eagles and likes all that part of the game. I'm good with it. But find the $10 million and then use that over the next couple of years. You budget with him at $10 million. Yeah, it's too much money. It is, but you're done. It's going to be too much money, but you're done. We're done having this damn conversation every single year. And to me, that's worth it. You start spending your assets elsewhere. You're looking for a 3C when Charlie Coyle's insane contract ends in a year. Like, it's just done. And then, yeah, it is, as Alyssa in the Toyota chat mentions, you have a second line of Landeskog, Nichushkin, and Sam Bennett? Girl? What? Yes, it's too much money. Yes, it is. But the cap is exploding right now. Lean into that. You say percentage-wise, a $10 million player right now is going to be $8.5 million in 2 seasons. Figure it out. How many times I've said this, I've made this exact argument for them trying to pay Brock Nelson to keep him, and I will continue to do so. They made a perfectly reasonable bet that Nazem Kadri was going to age poorly, and they were going to try and figure it out after that. They haven't. They've had 4 kicks at the can, and all of them have whiffed for various reasons. Brock Nelson really wasn't bad. He was just insanely expensive, and now he's going to walk. So you're right back to trying to find this answer. Sam Bennett, at least, it's just done. You're done messing around with it at that point. And, like, it's too much money, but it's only money. You're not talking about picks. You're not talking about prospects. You're not talking about players off your roster. It's just the money. And then you're done with it.
I don't care if he has 50 or 60 points. If he continues to produce at whatever you said, 70% of his career postseason games, he has a point or whatever it was. It was like 100 games, 70 points, something like that. So, I mean, you're paying him for the impact he would make theoretically in those 16 games, much more so than the 82 in the regular season. I don't know. The number doesn't terrify me. Just because of like what you guys have said in the sense of it is a raising cap because it's going up by about 11 million, right? So like 10 million, maybe more view it like 8 or 7.5 from, the last couple of years. I don't know. I guess like it's just one of those where these guys year after year, the number that should be considered like crazy, that line is just going to continue to change. And it reminds me of like quarterbacks in the NFL. Like you look at some of those numbers and on the surface, they're just absurd. But then when you factor in the rising cap and everything else, it's like, it's not that bad.
10 scares me a little bit. 10 is
what about 9?
A lot. I'd say 8.5 is probably my max.
But if 8.5 is where you're comfortable, you're probably going to have to pay 9.5 to 10 to actually get him.
8.5 is not where I'm comfortable. Where I'm comfortable is 6.5. And obviously I know that just doesn't get him. So it's not worth having that conversation.
Yeah.
What do you think the floor he's going to get this summer is? Like, what's the 8 bare minimum?
At this point, with how he's been this postseason, yeah, he averages 0.48 points per game in the regular season, and it goes up to 0.7. You add in the fact that he's a center. You add in the fact that the cap is exploding. You add in the fact that this free agent class sucks. It's all there for him to be like the big, like this is like the landmine contract. But he's also the guy where even if you only get like 80% of the value that you're trying to get out of it, it's still worth it if you're Colorado. If you're Detroit or something, it's not worth it. That's a landmine for those guys. But for who the Avs are and for what they need, yes, it's too much money, but you have to do it.
Yeah, it's a couple of things there. I do think if he stays in Florida, he gets the 8th year, maybe like 7.5. I think Florida probably has a pretty inside track at keeping him. But if he does go to free agency, totally, I could definitely see 8.5 not being enough. Like, And that's why you guys are at 10, right? Like sometimes you have to do what you have to do.
Well, I think he's going to get 8.5 from Florida over 8 years just to make the money.
Possible. Definitely possible.
I'd like to be his agent right now, man.
Yeah, no kidding.
His agent's got his foot up on the desk. Like he's got good music going. Show me the money.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good life.
We are headed into overtime here. Head over to the DNVR.com to continue the conversation. Another side of the salary cap that I wanted to talk about that isn't necessarily players. And I think proof is in the pudding. I don't know how much this actually matters when it comes to being a successful organization, but people do bring up, hey, Toronto essentially has a limitless bank, right? There are organizations, the New York Rangers essentially have a limitless bank when it comes to coaching staffs, when it comes to front office, when it comes to capologists, to analytics guys. If the Rangers and Leafs wanted to, they could spend $500 million a year on external resources for their hockey teams. Whereas other teams maybe don't have that amount of money. Realistically, the Cronkies probably do have that amount of money if they wanted to spend it. But should the NHL consider that? Should there be some limitations on spending off ice for hockey teams? Or do you think if you got it, spend it?
No, don't incentivize crappy owners. Like this Dick Monfort would love that. And he's pushing for that in baseball of not only should obviously there's no salary cap in baseball, but like he wants that in terms of there to be a cap of what teams can spend on analytics and resources. If you're too broke to own the team and to do it right, then sell the team for billions of dollars, take your payday and move on. Like I just hate that conversation of giving any type of leeway to these guys who inherently are going to find ways to cut corners and try and, maximize their profits. I get all that. It is a business, but I just think that's a slippery slope. And to me, if the Rangers want to spend hundreds of millions of dollars, that's what they should do. And that's what you should do to keep up with them then. And again, if you can't afford it, sell the team and make $2 billion.
Yeah. No, absolutely. The Maple Leafs print money and they invest a lot of it into their front office and their, you go and look at their team website and you can see all the guys they have in the front office. There's an argument about too many cooks, sure, but that's not a money thing. That's just you lack.
That might be them just having a poor process, but
exactly.
Boo-hoo if they're spending more than you. Keep up then.
Exactly, and that's where you do look at what's happening in baseball right now. The Mets, the Dodgers, they're good for the game because they're forcing the classes to kind of separate and say, if you're serious about winning, you have to invest because these dudes are going to leave you in the dust forever. That to me, I think is no, invest in your organization. You bought a sports franchise. The point of the franchise is to try and win a championship, is to try and sustain, is to try and have those moments. The Miami Marlins are bad for the game. The Colorado Rockies are bad for the game. Trying to cut all those corners? No, that's all of that is cheap. It's being nonsense. It's bullshit. And in Colorado, I'm genuinely concerned that the Cronkies are going to draw a hard line the way that they did with the Nuggets for years, where they would not be a tax team. It took them being, having Jokic for them to be okay, well, we're gonna be a luxury tax team, and you can understand. Oh, we don't want to spend into that apron, that first apron, until we're legitimately getting a championship caliber team. But I'm worried that once this cap continues to go up, that the Avs are going to be we're not spending more than $105 million. Oh, okay, we're gonna have $10 million in salary cap space left. Great. That just means we're gonna be aggressive at the deadline every year. Perfect. But they're not gonna want to spend. That's my concern, is that the Cronkies get cheap because they get cheap with all their teams. They cut corners with all of their organizations. Somewhere in the organization, they cut corners all the time. And we've seen it with the Avs. It's in their facilities. It's in their practice facilities. It's everywhere. They do it with the Nuggets. Because the NHL team has received revenue sharing over time, they get the check from the league. They have been one of the poor teams for a long time, it's been fine. And the salary cap and the actual like what it costs to pay the players has been so low, hasn't been onerous for them. I think it's going to get to that point where I'm genuinely concerned that they're not going to want to pay that anymore.
I do think it's been less true as Stan has started to get older, and we've seen Josh take over a lot. I do think the spending has been a little more liberal. I do think also the move of LA to LA for the Rams has been. You can't go spend $2 billion on a stadium and then not at least pay the low prices for your other teams. So I'm a little bit less worried about that, but it could happen. Like, obviously we've been begging for new practice facilities for a decade, but allegedly they're coming by 2040 or something. The only other thing I'd say is, with all the baseball references, the one thing I'm afraid of that baseball has started doing, and we've heard these conversations float around in hockey for like the past year or so, 2 years now, deferred money is stupid.
That's a different conversation though.
Yeah.
Like, you could, to me, like, yes, I'm with you. The Dodgers being able to do all that sucks. That's not great for the game. That's giving them another advantage on top of what is already a bunch of advantages. But also, like, from their standpoint, it's not against the rules. So, like, make that against the rules.
Yeah.
But if I want to spend $200 million on the top nutritionist on the world and the best practice facility and try and incentivize people to come here, like, that's what all the teams should be doing. And I think from a parity standpoint, you have a salary cap, which you need one, but this would just be incentivizing people like Kroenke to, well, we can't spend more, it's against the rules.
I think it's fair.
Yeah, definitely. The deferred money is just cap circumvention. That's all it is.
Agreed.
Like, you get a player that agrees to it, great, but that stuff I think is bad. Is bad for all of it. Like, I think that sucks, and that should not be something.
Like, how much money can you defer? Like, it just becomes a tricky concept, theoretically, and infinite. So,
well, and like, even at least like Ohtani's deal, you're like, this is pretty straightforward. I understand it, but with how they've done it in the NHL, the couple of deferred money deals, they're so confusing. Where I'm like, Jesus, dude, I don't even understand. I can't make heads or tails of this.
I'm absolutely convinced that the Ohtani thing is a conspiracy theory, and the Dodgers owner is going to fake his own death so he doesn't have to pay that Ohtani contract. Like, when the deferred money comes due.
Which owner? They're owned by a group.
Yeah, I know, but
that's a lot of fake death.
That'd be, man, if I was a player, I'd be like, kiss my ass, deferred money.
Yeah, I want my money now.
20 years? No, you're going to sign that check right now.
I don't know, man. Bobby Bonilla Day is fun.
That's true.
Like, I would actually have like an interest in, like, I wonder if when Eric comes back tomorrow, we should ask him how he feels about deferred money to see if he'd be like, yeah, I would love if I was still getting $500,000 checks July 1st every year for the next 10 years. Are the Isles
still paying DiPietro? They might be.
Dude, they might be. But yeah, like that's not deferred money. That's straight up.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
We bought that out because whoops. Like, that's bad money. But like the deferred money, I don't know. Obviously money today is more valuable than money tomorrow, but when you're planning for like the rest of your life, like, I don't know. There's something to be said for getting $1 million July 1st every year for 30 years or something. You might be able to talk me into it, but I'm bad with money, so don't listen to me.
Fine. If my contract is $750 million, I'll defer $30 million. Fine.
Yeah. It's a little tougher in the NHL when you're talking about a $50 million deal and they want to defer 20 of it. You're like, I don't know, man. I don't know. This doesn't sound as good.
We are running long here, but I did want to wrap up the show with, obviously, the Avs hired a capologist last year. A lot of teams have hired capologists around the league. When does it become a problem that the salary cap becomes too complicated? We already have fans almost weekly asking us, what about this? What if a team does this? How does that work with the salary cap? And there has to be some. I get it. You have to manage injured players. You have to make options for teams that don't just salary cap screw them. But at what point is there just too many rules and it becomes too hard to follow?
Now, I mean, it's already like that in all sports, but like that's just what it's going to be because it's become such big business, right? Like that's what becomes of this when you start having these salary caps go, up over $100 million. There's so much money at stake. Like you're going to find really smart people to find you any type of loophole or competitive advantage they can.
Well, you combine that with a team like Vegas, which is just like ruthlessly efficient with it, right? Where they're like, we're going to exploit the shit out of every single corner of this. And we're going to keep doing this until somebody stops us. Yeah, Mark Stone gets hurt every February. Do something. That's, and then they find success with it. They win a cup. They're right in the mix every year. They win playoff rounds. It's been successful. So other organizations are like, okay. I mean, you look at the Avs. The Avs were like crazy over the cap.
Yep.
Their Game 7 roster wasn't even close to cap compliant in the regular season. And they still fucking lost. So, teams are going to lean into that. The Avs traded specifically for LTIR space in the preseason. They traded a guy that was never going to play a game for them just to add a little breathing room. And now deferred money is becoming a part of this conversation on top of it. I think it's now. I used to really like the NHL salary cap because it was kind of straightforward. It was pretty easy to understand. This is a hard cap. You look at the NBA, and the NBA is like, what the fuck is this?
Second apron.
There's aprons. What are you cooking?
The contract slots are very, very rigid.
You've got cap holds because this guy is due for this raise, and then there's just this blatant manipulation of all of it where you're just like, why is this way? Why did you think that this is the problem with the soft cap, right? And and then in baseball, you don't even really have to worry about it. There's a fake salary cap, but and then in football, there's no guaranteed money, so it's just like, oh, this guy has $100 million contract, and he sees 18 million of it before the team just cuts him randomly one day, and it's just, oh, my brain hurts with it. And now the NHL is moving more in that direction to make it more complicated, and to me, I think that sucks. I think that I do think that there should be.
There's some purity to saying you have $100 million. Figure it out.
Yeah, and fans care more about this than ever before. Why do you think Cap Friendly was so popular amongst NHL fans? Because Puckpedia has done a fine job of replacing it, but you look at the interest in this has exploded over time. Making it easier, making it more accessible is fun. It's fun. There's a whole segment of us out there that like doing this stuff. There are plenty of people that don't give a shit about any of this, and they just want to watch their team play games, and that's fine.
P.S. Less than a month away from our next Roast My Roster.
I should get on Poshmark and see if I can get a new Wizards hat.
There we go. Now we're talking. We do have one late super chat here from Wilson the Ghost, who says, I know it's still ways off, but what do you think Cale's next per year average on his extension will be?
15.
He's a pretty loyal guy, so I'll say 14 and a half.
I think some of this is let's watch and see what McDavid signs for this summer on his extension, and then we'll work off of that, because it'll probably be lower than McDavid, but I'm expecting, I'm emotionally, mentally, I'm planning for 15.
Yep. He'd be worth it.
Yeah. Dude could walk in and say, I want a max, and you just go, okay.
I mean, that's the story of his last contract, as I reported on.
Yep.
The Avs were like, what do you want? And he was like, what can I take that makes me bank, but also ensures that we can sign Landy and Nate and Taves?
Right.
And Miko.
Well, it's interesting, and I know we got to wrap it up, but you're putting yourself in a situation, if you go out and get a Sam Bennett, if you overpay for a Sam Bennett to lock him up forever, you're now talking about a pretty fleshed out core. If you can extend Natchez on top of that, okay, you're keeping McKinnon and Makar. You'll do whatever you want for those two. And then you have McKinnon, Makar, Natchez, Bennett. At that point, whatever is left of Taves' contract is part of that core as well. You have Landy still, assuming he's healthy. And you're starting to put together a pretty deep core Colorado Avalanche hockey team.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, they don't really have, Natchez and Makar and Lecky are like the contracts that you're like, those are the ones where you're like, if you get those guys locked down, you're kind of set for a long time. There's not going to be a lot of movement here. You're good in goal. You're good at in your forward core. Like you're kind of there. But that Natchez thing, I think, is going to be. I think there's going to be sticker shock on that for some people. I think that's looking at $10 million.
Yeah, I see it. Any final thoughts? No? All right, cool. I'll get us out of here. We do still have more, honestly, to talk about when it comes to cap, specifically with the Avs. We can also have the whole tax conversation tomorrow, maybe. We'll see where it goes. But we appreciate all y'all hanging out, especially for this long one. We're back tomorrow. Only 4 days live this week, but hope everyone had a good holiday. Extra Monday off. But yeah, that's it. We'll be back. We appreciate y'all. This has been the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, and we'll see you tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.